Welcome to Inside the Audition, the podcast where we go behind the scenes for a deep dive look into the world of auditions. I'm Joe Lars Larson, creator of Actors Audition Club, an international community helping actors book your dream roles in TV, film, and theater.
And I'm Brandon Knox, actor, producer, and co-host. Each episode, we chat with actors and industry professionals to share their audition experiences, insights, and advice.
We provide actors with actionable tips, strategies, and resources to help you elevate your auditions.
We demystify the often intimidating and misunderstood world of auditions to help you succeed.
So whether you're just starting out on your acting journey or you're a seasoned pro, join our Actors Audition Club members as we go
Inside the Audition.
Well, hello, internets. Welcome to episode 154. We are here inside the audition. Where are we? We're inside the audition. Hello?
Hello.
Welcome. I'm joined today by the regular co-host, Brandon Knox, and our bonus co-host today, Erin Elizabeth Reed, who is one of our session directors in New York City. We got a great episode today, something that I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about my recent on-set experience shooting an episode of a TV show that I was a part of, which was an incredible experience. So we're going to get into that. And the reason that I wanted to make sure that Erin and Brandon were here is they were a big part of that in my preparation during the auditions and the callback auditions, and even while I was on set needing some extra prep. So we're going to break that down. I've been journaling about it and doing my own little debrief. So we're going to get into that. But first, we want to make sure to remind you, if you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube right now, smash the share button, share it out with your actor friends, and you can interact and ask questions throughout the broadcast in the comments, and we will answer those questions and interact with you live in the show. So this is an interactive podcast here live. And the other thing we want to let you know is everyone who does comment or ask a question, at the end of the episode, you're going to be entered into a draw where you'll have a chance to win a free self-tape session with one of our session directors. That's a value of anywhere from $49 to $89. And all you got to do is be here and interact in the comments. Make sense?
Yeah. Can I interact?
No, you can't win.
Darn.
You definitely cannot win. So let's just get into it here. So to remind people, we've talked about this in a couple recent episodes where I announced that I had booked the role and then I was away shooting it. But in a brief nutshell, I booked a lead role in an episode of a new series. I can't reveal all the details of it, but can't spoil it, and I don't think it's public knowledge yet. But I can tell you it's a horror anthology where each episode is its own story, very much like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone or Outer Limits. And it was one of the coolest experiences of my life, one of my best on-set experiences, and something that I'll never forget. So I've been spending some time after I shot thinking about it and debriefing and journaling a little bit so I can capture some of the memories and capture some of the lessons. And we're going to chat about that today. And I think what I've decided is we're going to talk about it in three main categories. Is there weird feedback happening still?
Yes.
I'm hearing like garbled sound and stuff. Is there sound? Okay?
You just went gobbledygook on my end for a few seconds.
Right. Brandon?
Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of feedback.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's volume on either one of your ends, or Erin, I don't know if that's still yours, but
I could just mute for a while and see if that helps anything.
Try that. Hello. Yeah, it's definitely feedback from her computer. Okay, well, we'll see your facial expressions. Raise a hand or unmute at any time. Sorry about that. I don't know what the sound feedback is, but that definitely sounds better already. So just to break this down for everyone, I've lumped my notes and lessons into three main categories, and that is team, preparation, and energy. Those were the three lessons and three things that I really focused on going into this project. So we're going to talk about those. So first off, team. More than ever before, I really had a big focus on making sure that I had a team around me and making sure that I was focused on meeting everyone on set. So, and that started first here with Brandon and Aaron. I have my own audition team. Brandon helped me with the original self-tape audition, which, by the way, was way back in April. And I booked him here at Actors Audition Club. We worked on it and we submitted it, and then nothing happened for April, May, June, July. So much so that I was like, oh, okay, I guess this one went away. And that was a little disappointing, but I'd kind of forgotten about it, as you do when you do an audition. But I was pumped for this project. This one was one of those ones. We all know that every audition in your head really isn't equal. Some have more weight, or you resonate with different projects and different roles more. And this one, the second that I saw it, the character breakdown, that it was a new series, that it was in the vein of Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits. So it was just one of those ones where I was like, ooh, this is juicy. My character had a great arc. The scenes that they gave me for auditions were awesome. So I really, really wanted this one. And then it went away and nothing happened until late July. I got an email from my agent saying, casting is looking for you at the callback on Zoom right now. Where are you? And I was like, huh? Callback for what? I called her back and was literally like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. I don't know what project you're talking about. I have not heard about a callback. Long story very short is somehow, and this has never happened, I've been with my agent for so long, like for many, many years, 8, 9, 10 years now. Somehow, I don't know if it was a typo in the email or just the Gmail gods were frowning on me. But the 2 weeks earlier to the callback, I never got the callback audition notice. So I get this notice saying like, yeah, they're looking for you right now. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I get on the horn with her. She sends me what it is. I remember that it's this project that we shot the first audition for back in April. And my initial instinct is freaking the fuck out. I'm like, I can't fucking believe this. The thing that I wanted the most, more than anything recently, is like somehow I didn't get an email. Like, what the F? And this no shade towards my agent, because she didn't know what happened. I didn't know what happened. It was just one of those things. But what happened is they were like, the session's still happening. They can see you right now. And I had to quickly weigh that. And I'm like, I haven't looked at these sides for 3 months. Yeah, I can hop on and be nice with the director and maybe have sides in hand. But I'm like, I don't know. And I'm already flustered. So I was like, I don't think I can do this right now. And then what made the decision to not do it, part of me was like, there was fear of missing out, where I'm like, I can't miss the callback. That's super unprofessional. But then in my head, I was like, if I go on now, I'm not going to be prepared. Even in the meet and greet, like part of callbacks and meeting the director is they get to know you as a human. But I'm kind of on tilt now. I'm kind of flustered. So I had to tell my agent, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going in a callback with 5-minute notice. There's nothing that I'm going to do right now that's going to be better than my original audition. I was like, ask them if we can reschedule or tell them to book me on my first audition, because there's no way that I'm going to be better right now with 5 minutes notice than my original audition, which was a hard thing to do and kind of not the ideal situation. But she got back to casting. They said, no problem. The director can see you Monday. This was on a Thursday. The director can see you Monday. No problem. And I also got the sense that they really did want to see me because they really liked my first audition. So they weren't willing to be like, oh, he didn't make it, then screw him. So fortunately for me, the casting director, the director, the production team, and my agent were able to all work it out. and I had the weekend to prepare. So getting back to team, part of that team preparation was on the Monday morning, I booked Aaron to do a Zoom session, and right before my Zoom session. So I think my appointment with casting was I think at noon. So I booked Aaron, I believe at 10:30 to 11:30, and I set up my Zoom setup exactly the way I would have it in the real callback audition, and we just ran the scenes over and over and over again, but we ran them exactly like it was the callback. So I slated, and then Aaron said, "Thank you so much. Let's go into scene 1 whenever you're ready." We did scene 1. "Thank you so much. Let's move forward to scene 2 whenever you're ready." Did scene 2. "Thank you so much. Let's do scene 3." And we did that 5 or 6 times, just over and over and over again, drilling it. So I knew my beginnings and endings. And I had mapped out all my eye lines. I knew exactly my frame in every scene. And then, so we ran it and ran it and ran it and ran it. And then at around 11:30, I hung up. 11:45, I logged in, and I was hot. So, Aaron, you can unmute now. Just shout out to both of you for being a part of that. I'm really fortunate to more than ever feel like I have an audition team and that I wasn't auditioning alone. Brandon, for you in the first self-tape audition, and Aaron in the callback. And I think that's a huge lesson to everyone watching, is the level of preparation, and also the note of practicing like you play. There's no point half-assing your rehearsals and half-assing your preparation, because then when it's game time, everything's different. There's nerves and there's pressure and there's lights, camera, action, and crew and cast all around you. So just the idea of rehearsing till you can't get it wrong versus rehearsing till you get it right, and then also practicing till you play. So thank you for both of you for that, Brandon and Aaron. Aaron, anything you want to share about that process or notes throughout?
Yeah. Well, gosh, couple of things. I remember. I just remember how pissed you were that Thursday.
Oh, I was livid. I was like, not at anyone in particular, more at the universe. Initially, we've had a conversation about this the day after with my agent. I wasn't in the best mood after getting that note from my agent. It's never happened before. We still weren't, I think we figured out what happened. I think it was either an old email or a typo in an email, an old email address that is no longer active. But it was one of those things where it's like, you got to realize, okay, this is where we're at. Now what do we do? But internally, I did freak out and I was super pissed. And then I had to take a deep breath and calm myself and just say, okay, this is the hand that's been dealt. Now, how do we do some damage control, and how do we save this? So yeah, I remember.
Oh my God, the dogs. Hang on, sorry, Brandon. Why don't you take over for a second?
I think that what this really goes to show, Lars, is that you're really starting to ask and fight for what you want. Like you took a huge risk saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this right now. If you want to give me some time, that's great. If you don't, fine. Right. And you really put it out on the table, like, I can do this if you give me the time for it. You have not, I have not received that time yet. And taking that is a huge step in your growth. And like, it's a huge testament to what you have become since working at the Todorov studio, and like graduating the conservatory, and like the years that you've spent throughout COVID and throughout lockdown and stuff, and the time that you've dedicated to your growth as a performer and your growth as a storyteller, which is a huge testament to you. So huge congrats there. And yes. And I've been watching the Todorov the 6-minute intro video a lot recently. And I just keep rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it. And the thing that I always come back to is the say yes to what you want, or ask and fight for what you want. and preparation plus commitment equal confidence in career. And that's what you did when you got the time. You said, okay, I'm going to do everything and humanly possible. You assembled this team. I remember very clearly your first audition for this, like taking the huge risk and making something that you were looking down the barrel of the camera, endowing the camera with that possibility and that importance, which really elevated your performance. And I also found like you're very open, but during that audition, you were incredibly open, and you were very much open to ideas and suggestions, and like it was a very strong give and take. And we found a lot of stuff in that initial audition, and it kind of goes to show like things come back. And I remember you talking about when you booked the Lou Handy job on Oh Yuck, and how you knew as soon as you auditioned for it, you were going to have a callback, and you worked on those auditions relentlessly until you got that callback, so that when you got there, you were above and beyond what you had started at. And it goes to show what you put into this, right? And how far you've come and how far you've grown. So kudos to you, Lars.
Thank you. Yeah. And that, so to loop back on a couple things, in making the decision to say, no, I can't I think it was like 2:00 and it was 10 to 2 and their session was ending at 2. And they're like, if you can hop on right now, they can see you. And I'm kind of panicking. I really want it. I don't want to say no. I'm afraid if I do say no, I'm going to lose it. And then I just had to take some power back and empower myself. And the decision, really what it came down to, and I think this is a good check in all your decisions, is, am I making the decision out of fear or out of love or positivity? And in saying, yes, I'll hop on right now, flustered with no prep time, haven't looked at the scenes in 3 months, that decision would have been made solely out of fear of losing the job, rather than from an empowered point of, yeah, I'm ready to rock and I want to kill this one and do a great job. So I think all of us as artists, we need to empower ourselves, take back some of the power and agency and decision making, because there can be a tendency, because when you are auditioning, you're asking for a job to a certain degree, competing for a role, but at a certain point, you got to take your power back, and instead of being like, oh, please, 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 it's got to be like, you got to draw a line in the sand and just be like, no, that's not going to work for me. I will happily audition, but the chips didn't fall the right way this time, and let's figure out how to do this properly. And the other part of that decision is, I just knew, I was like, okay, I can get on there now. There's some value in the FaceTime with the director and meeting people, like a meet and greet. But then I was like, I'm also totally on tilt and flustered right now. They're not going to get my regular positive outlook and jokey guy. They're going to get a guy that's kind of pissed off and upset and flustered. And then the final decision was, I knew they're not going to get I'm not going to do a better job than I did in my self-tape, where I had prepped and knew the scenes inside out, backwards and forwards. So it was just like, no, it's not going to work. And then that Lou Handy role that you mentioned in Oh Yuck, where I was in, I think it was 5 episodes as a recurring character in a kids comedy show. That one, I wanted the role so badly, because I loved it, and not really in a needy way, just in a, like, this is something that I want to do. So I want to get this. I did it. You're right. I didn't stop rehearsing. Sometimes you audition and then you just forget about it and let it go away. In that case, I auditioned and then I just kept rehearsing until I got the callback notice. Like, I just decided in my head, I already have this. I'm just going to keep rehearsing until the callback comes, or until the time I'm on set, because I know this role is mine. And it doesn't always work out that way, but that was the mindset in that case. Aaron, is your sound all right? You want to pop on?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm having my own technologically flustered day today. Yeah, so I missed some of what Brandon said, but what I wanted to chime in and say was that I did think overall you handled the situation so professionally in terms of rescheduling your callback. And I think that also goes a long way toward showcasing yourself not just as a talented artist, but as a collaborator who sees themselves at an equal professional level with the people that you're entering into this project with. And that's highly attractive to people on the other side of the line. There's we want our artists, our actors to claim ownership and say, hey, we're in this together. How can we yes and each other? And so someone who has, the self-worth and the dignity to say, no, that's not going to work. I won't be able to show you my best today. Here's when I can. So you offered a possible solution as well. It wasn't just a hard no, it doesn't work. It wasn't like the kind of egotistical grandstanding that you can also tip into. And when I say you, I don't mean you, Lars. I mean
just people.
It
was if I had been how dare they and took a big ego trip or anything. And,
right. I've seen that, but no, you said no, this won't work for me, but here's what will. And I think you just presented yourself so professionally, and it's no wonder that they were happy to see you on a Monday, a solo callback too. Like it was your moment.
And I the funny thing is I saw the casting director the next day. I randomly bumped into him and I was like, oh, hey, I don't know what happened yesterday. And he was like, like he didn't sweat it at all. In my head, I'm like, we tend to catastrophize and be, oh no, they're going to think I'm terrible and I'm unprofessional, when probably it was like my agent probably emailed them and be like, I don't know what happened, but there was a miscommunication. Lars never got the callback thing. Can we reschedule? And it was like, yeah, sure. No problem. We've got another session on Monday. So let's do it then. It was probably as easy and as simple, and nobody but me lost any bit of sleep over it. I want to go back to something you mentioned, Brandon, about a strong choice. Because, and I haven't told either of you this, I got direct feedback. And shout out to the director. I'll say the director's name, Joe Lynch. He was incredible. Maybe later we'll talk more about the episode and more about the experience when the show is released. But he was so generous with his feedback and his comments about the first audition and throughout the entire process. We had a meeting when I got up there, and we went scene by scene, really line by line. And he was filling me in on and talking about my original audition. Oh, we really like what you did there, and we this part, and just making sure everyone was on the same page. But the two biggest things, and this is shout out to both of you, shout out to Tom Todoroff. I was so happy when I heard this. I wanted to call Tom. The director, the showrunner, who's also the writer and creator, and a couple of the producers made a point to come up to me when they met me, and they said, hey man, we wanted to let you know your audition not only changed the role, it changed the story, and it changed how we shot this episode because of some strong choices I made. And two of the choices, there were some moments where I looked right down the barrel of the camera in an extreme fucking close-up, where I was looking right down the barrel. And that was it was an impulse that I had when I looked at it. In my head, it was like, this has got to be right down the barrel. I was thinking in terms of a storytelling, and I'm thinking in terms of filmmaking. I'm like, this shot's got to be down the barrel. They could always say no, but another actor might be like, oh no, you never ever look down the barrel. Like that can't be a thing. And breaking the fourth wall, you can't do that. How dare you? And they specifically told me that choice stood out like a big, fat, lovely sore thumb. And then the other thing that they said is so I'll tell you, my role is antagonist. Am I getting that right? Protagonist, antagonist, good guy, bad guy kind of thing. And there's a big trap when you're playing the antagonist of being like, oh, I'm the bad guy, I'm the villain. But our coaching and teaching from Tom in the Todoroff Conservatory and weekly workshop is to play opposites, to find the love, to find the positive. He always mentions the negative is always written. It's our job as actors to find the positive. And apparently what a lot of the other actors did in their auditions is they played the end of the episode at the beginning, meaning they had no arc. They started out as the bad guy from the first thing that came out of their mouth. And that was kind of, if you look at it on paper, you could see those negatives, and you no fault to those actors, because it's a trap that it was an easy trap to fall into. But the choice that we made in looking at the architecture of the scenes, we had 3 audition scenes, and in order for me to have an arc, I have to start out as positive and friendly. And I got a note from them. They said, your audition, you playing the positive and some love and kind of a friendly neighborhood guy off the top, changed the whole story, changed how we viewed your character. So thank you. I got that huge thank you. And I was just like, oh, fuck yeah, thank you. I could never get better validation that our training with Todoroff is spot on. And the reason it's spot on is because that's the truth in life. And we had several discussions on set about this, where it's never that clear in life, oh, he's a good guy and he's a bad guy. Everybody's everything. Every human being has beautiful, loving, great characteristics that are positive and perfect and beautiful. And then everyone's got a dark shadow side where they do terrible things. And in heightened situations where there is conflict, that's all exacerbated, where people, good decisions, bad decisions. And me making that choice, when you see the episode, hopefully what it does is leaves the audience in this tug of war of like, who's right, who's wrong. Oh, I could see how he's made that decision. I could see how he made that decision, so that there'll be team antagonist and team protagonist, which is also life as well. Like, if you think about stuff going on in the world and in I'll use the United States as an example, it's like, it's not Republicans are bad and Democrats are good, or vice versa. It's everybody's everything, and everyone's struggling to try and figure out how to get what they want in their life. So right away, that validation was like, ooh, make strong choices. Don't fall into traps. If you have impulses like, I'm gonna look down the fucking barrel in a close-up right now. And they straight up told me, director, producers, showrunner, your audition, those choices changed the way we look at the role, changed the way we shot the whole episode, and changed the entire story for us. So I was like, oh, thank you. But really, not thank you to me, thank you to team, because never have I felt more that I had like the kind of people on my shoulders with me, meaning acting coach Tom, meaning audition coach Brandon and Aaron, and we'll talk about a couple other people as well that were part of that team. But yeah, it was just huge validation. So that was a massive lesson for me.
I remember us talking a lot in your initial audition about the fall of a hero, because I feel like that's what we really captured in that all of this neighborhood hero kind of character, almost like Walter White in a way,
right?
Over the course of Breaking Bad, right. And that's what I really loved and took away from your initial audition, was that it was the downfall of this hero character that was a beacon of light in this community that was kind of not doing so well, but you were really holding it together for them and seeing right. the downfall of that, and like family man, father, like, and just falling into this headfirst into this trap. And like, yeah, and it's the schadenfreude of it all, really.
It's also realizing, why did they give you 3 scenes? You can't play 3 scenes all the same. And if I look at the last scene where there's a descent in the madness and some chaos and heightened conflict and some questionable choices, if it starts there, then what the fuck is the story? Imagine if episode 1 of Breaking Bad, Walter White comes out and he's like, I'm a fucking monster. You know that scene where he has the scene with his wife and be like, I'm the monster. Can't do that in episode 1, otherwise we don't give a fuck about him. He's just this awful person who is a terrible drug dealer and gets a bunch of people killed, rather than, oh, this is a guy struggling with a disease who fucking loves the fuck out of his family and wants to make a better future for them. So then he makes these questionable decisions, but they were arguably decisions and moves out of love, not because I'm a big bad fucking bad guy, you know? So yeah, it was great lessons. Aaron, you got anything?
Yeah, so much. First of all, I'm so not surprised that they changed some of the way they shot it based on your audition and callback. That doesn't surprise me at all. What I am completely surprised that the showrunners and creators would have also like seen the role differently, because I'm like, does that mean they were actually falling into the same trap of oh, he's just a villain from the beginning?
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
How can that be? Because we're all heroes of our own lives and stories, you know.
Right.
It's, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna tell a little tale on myself. When you first sent me the sides to work the callback, I thought you were the hero. I thought you were the protagonist.
Mm-hmm. Same.
That's all I ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Not the villain.
Interesting. Yeah. Right.
So anyway, just like, wow, it's so interesting how we can be pulling different things from the same material. And can I just circle back to something from like the very beginning of this broadcast? You mentioned how when you first saw the breakdown in the role, how you instantly latched on like here, and it was like, this is yours, and then so much time went by and you had heard nothing. And I just find it fascinating that a handful of the largest roles that I've booked in my career happen the exact same way.
Right.
That kind of instantaneous, I know it in my heart, this is for me, and then not hearing anything for months and kind of having that grace to like just dissolve your attachment to it, and then it comes back around at exactly the right moment for you, and in a surprising way.
Yeah.
And you killed it. And it sounds like your initial audition, because I didn't see it, but I know what we built on for the callback. So I know what you and Brandon put together had to be top notch. And then to hear all this post feedback from production, that you really stood out and were unique and were probably the top pick from the beginning. They could have booked you just from your audition.
I did get that sense in the callback, and then in speaking to them afterwards, that those choices did stand out. So I was a front runner going into it, which is also the reason why I didn't choose to do the last minute callback, because I'm like, I don't think I can do anything but plant seeds of doubt in their head right now. Like, I'm not going to be better than the self-tape. So what's going to happen? I'm going to go in there frustrated. They're going to get a sense like, ooh, seems a little off. He's got his sides in hand, doesn't know the script, like isn't sharp. Like I knew it would be there. I knew it would come back. I could have been sides in hand and done an okay job, but it would look more rough than the first audition. And if they don't know the whole backstory of, oh, I just found out 5 minutes ago that I have a callback, then they're just like, well, what, he seems strong, but maybe not. And circling back to something you said about dealing with adversity is, I always think about people who are late. And if you've ever been somewhere where someone's late and they come in and they're all flustered, oh my God, so sorry, I'm late. So sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry. And then for like the first half hour that they're there, they're making it all about themselves and their fuck up, rather than just gracefully coming in and being like, hey, thanks so much for your patience. It was a bit crazy. I'm here now. And then that's the end of it. Or like take some steps to fix things, but don't make it a huge deal. Like sometimes people make a tiny, like they make mountains out of molehills by getting all flustered about things. When if it was on set, like say if you're on set and something goes wrong, you just got to take a deep breath and move on. Like you drop a line or you miss a mark, or if your shuttle was late to set or whatever, you missed a message from an AD calling you to set and you were a couple minutes late, if any of that stuff did happen, it's how do you respond to that is more important than the initial error. So I think there's a lot of lessons there too. So what else can we talk about? Oh, just to put a button on the strong choices and changing the role. At the end, the director wrapped me. He's like, all right, that's a picture wrap on Joey Freddy, the nicest bad guy ever. Which he was making a comment on the on-screen character, but also on the on my actual, like, as a human being dealing with people on set. So to wrap up this first section on team, though, I talked about like all the things I've learned from our acting coach, Tom Todoroff, all the help that I got from the two of you, all the help that I got from the director in the callback. Like, it was one of the most generous directors I've ever had in feedback and spending time. Like, even before we did those scenes on the callback, he was like, let's talk a little bit about the initial, your initial audition. He talked a little bit about the story in general. He talked about how we're going to shoot it, which is great. So he gave me a lot of great feedback. The other people that I want to shout out are Paul D'Agostino, who is a voice and speech coach with the Todoroff studio, who, because I was a member of the conservatory, I have voice and speech workouts online in recordings. So one of the things I did, and this will lead us into the preparation point of this, is every day when I was on set, I did a full 45-minute voice and speech workout with Paul D'Agostino, who I think Paul works at a couple other faculties as well, like prestigious university programs, and has worked perhaps on Broadway and TV and film stuff. So that was huge too. So I was like, okay, I've got my audition coaches, I've got my acting coach, Tom, I've got my voice and speech coach, I've got a director. And the other big thing that I made a real intentional focus on, and I believe this wholeheartedly, is filmmaking, more than anything else, is a team game. So when I went up there, I was very focused on learning everyone's names and actually interacting like a human being, like not treating PAs or even background actors or a driver as second-class citizens. And there's a trap there. It's like, it does feel fucking great when you're number 1, 2, 3 on a call sheet. You do kind of get treated like royalty. You got your own dressing room. You got people pampering you in hair and makeup before and tweaking your collar and just kind of treating you like this above person. But that, like, you fall into that and it can really fuck you up. So I made specific intentions from looking at the call sheets, meeting people. If by the end of day one, I didn't know people's names, at the end of day one, I was looking at the call sheet. Okay, key makeup person who I'm dealing with, that's her. Okay, key wardrobe. Okay, the sound guy. So that by the end of the set, I knew everyone by name, and thanking people too. Like, they come up, sound guy is coming, he's messing with your lav and putting your pack down. And every time I dealt with him, I was like, oh, thanks so much. That was great. And thank you. Like, usually they're saying thank you. So it's a very Canadian thing where it's like, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. But it is a team game. And part of that is I want everyone to feel like team. If they're feeling good about how I treat them, then they're probably going to do a better job they're going to be nicer to me. Like, there's a human element to that. You treat people nicely, they're probably going to treat you nicely back. They're going to be in a better mood, so they're going to do a better job. So that was really one big intention for me when I was up there. And by the end, I knew everyone's name. They're thanking me, I'm thanking them. And I heard someone, I don't know, it was a podcast I listened to, and they were talking about legacy. And a lot of people, there's a fallacy about legacy in that a lot of people think of the term legacy meaning, how will people think of you after you're dead? And whoever the speaker was like, no, legacy is not after you're dead. Legacy is what happens the moment you've interacted with someone and walk away from them. What you left, the impression that you've left with them right then and now, that's the legacy that they have of you, or that's your legacy in them. It's not 50 years from now when you're dead. So it was the idea of, I wanted to walk away from that set, whether it was cast, crew, background, so that if anyone ever asked me, or asked them, you work with Joey Freddie Larson, what was he like? That right away from that, if I never interacted with them again, ever, and never saw them again, that they would be like, oh yeah, he was really cool. He was fun. He was like polite and said thank you and all of those things, versus the other, like, oh yeah, he was a real prick. Like, seems nice on the podcast and he's nice on interviews and press, but what a dick behind the scenes. So I think that's a great lesson for everyone. Remember that you're a team. And I don't really put myself above any other person on that crew. It's like, as actors, yeah, we're front and center and it's our close up and maybe it's our faces on the poster or on the streaming site. But the gaffer who set up the light and was busting his ass for 14 hours a day for 5 days straight, to me, that it's like, without him, then the whole thing would have been fucked up just as much as it would have been fucked up if I wasn't there as the actor, or if I dropped the ball. So just the importance of, it's a massive team that puts all that together. And as actors, it's a trap to think like, oh, I'm being pampered and it's my face, and so I'm more important than other people. You're really not.
Yeah, it's very true. Like, you do have to treat everyone with a sense of respect, and that's what they'll remember you for. And that's a great way to put it, because we should all be treating each other as equals, because we're all just human beings. And how would you like to be treated on set? Would you like to be talked down to, or would you like to be treated as someone that is a proficient at what they do and incredibly smart and just want to do a great job at what they do?
Even background actors. Like, I remember when I was on background and you're like, you're kind of huddled with the other background actors and you see the people speaking over there and they're talking to the directors and they have lines and you're just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And there's maybe an unspoken rule of like, not as background, you're not really interacting with the leads so much. But I made a point, if I passed one of them or if I was back in holding at the craft table, I'd be like, great job, everyone. Or that was really cool. Or even on set, there was a kid skateboarding by and I was like, oh, are you a skateboarder? And he was like, no, I never skateboarded before. And I was like, well, you're killing it today. Maybe you'll be a pro skateboarder by the end. Like, that kind of stuff. Just remembering that, like, everybody there is a human being, regardless of their rank on the call sheet. And I remember that because I remember being the background person, and I remember looking at those people like, oh my God, like, who is that guy right there? And if any of those people had walked past me back then and been like, hey, great job on that last take, even if it was just all I did was white frame, that would have like blown my fucking mind, where I would have been like, or something like, yeah, great job. Are you looking to be an actor? Or like, stick with it. Like something as tiny as that, you don't know how that might pay off to a young actor or to a kid. So yeah, that was a big lesson for me. What else I want to talk about? So we talked about team. The other big thing was preparation. We've talked about that. This role, I followed my audition checklist, and right from the get-go, part of the reason I really wanted this is I took the time to look up the producers. They had provided some backstory. They provided a lookbook and kind of a series synopsis. So I took all the time to go through that and do my prepped for the audition, prepped for the callback. From the time I booked the role, I booked you, Brandon, for a session. And then even while I was on set, one of my scenes was a phone call scene where it was just me on the phone. And so I booked Erin for a session where she just called me up from my hotel room, and I had been able to see the set. So I knew the lay of the land where I would be shooting this. which was also intentional. The director gave me that opportunity and I accepted the opportunity. It was like, after you wrap on this day, if you want to go look at this other set so that you can start blocking it. And the director gave me a lot of freedom. He was like, I'm kind of going to just let you block this scene out yourself. So if you want to look at the set, so you know the lay of the room that you're working in for the phone call. And then I just mapped that out in my hotel room. Okay, here's the window and here's the hallway and here's the bedroom. And then I was running the scene. I don't know, we probably ran it 5 or 10 times, Aaron, and just ran that and ran that and ran that because I knew it was only going to be me on set for that scene. So it's like the whole scene rises and falls on me. And I'm really proud to say throughout the whole set, and this is a shout out to the whole team, the number of like dropped things where like actors dropping a line or missing a mark or doing anything. There was like really none of that from an actor standpoint. If we ever had to redo something, it was like it was a camera move that didn't quite land at the right time. It was timing issues, or maybe it was like a focus pull that because of where the actor was that time, they didn't quite get it. And there was one rehearsal before we were shooting where the other actor said his line. It was a group scene, and I had a moment of like, this is me, right? And then had to be like where I wasn't quite sharp on it once in a rehearsal. And even that one time in a rehearsal was like a check to me, like, don't do that in a fucking take. Like, and everyone was brilliant in a take. I don't think there was that. I can't think of a single take where anything was blown because of an actor not knowing his lines or not being prepared. There was one moment in that phone call scene where the showrunner had rewritten a line. He came over to me and was like, it's written this way, but I think that doesn't make sense. Let's change it to that. And in one of the takes, I reverted to the old one, but I caught it, took a deep breath, backed up to where I was, and then resaid the line the way he wanted it to be changed. So again, it was no harm, no foul. And because of that preparation with you, Aaron, we shot that one scene. He had 3 camera setups in mind. The director, he was like, we'll do it a couple times from here, a couple times from here, a couple times from here. And I think we did 3 takes from the first setup, 3 takes from the second. And he was like, I think we got it. I don't even think we need that third setup. So I got what I need. You good? And I was like, yeah, that last one felt great to me. Moving on. And the importance of preparation for anyone, if you have been on a TV set versus like an indie film, there's just no time. It's just go, go, go. All of your rehearsals aren't really for you as the actor. They're for camera and lighting and for them to map everything out. So if you're lucky enough to get some rehearsals, it's really just for the camera moves to make sure they got everything covered. And then it was like, we would get maybe 2 takes, 3 takes. So had any of the actors not been fully prepped and ready to rock, we wouldn't have made our days. And we shot, it was 4 days, what they call splits, which is half day, half night. So our calls were like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and we would shoot 4 or 5 p.m. until 4 or 5 a.m. so that they get the tail end of daylight and then they get an overnight shoot rather than just a day shoot and just a night shoot. And I think for the most part, they made every day. One day, because of rain and some technical practical effects issues, they ran a couple hours overtime. But other than that, it's just boom, 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 boom. So if you are not prepared and you're not ready to rock and know your lines, then you fuck everything up. And you actually, worst case scenario, could risk being fired if you're not ready and not prepared. And there was one more thing I wanted to say about that. I spaced on it. Anyways, preparation, just the pressure. Yes, Aaron's raising her hand.
Well, because I have a couple questions that have come up as you've been relaying some of these stories. So I'd love to know, one, did you and your other key actors find time to like rehearse lines privately in trailers or anything? Or
the time was there. I chose I mean, we didn't ask you. It's not like if someone had asked, I would have said certainly, for sure. I felt good enough that I was prepped. They were all pros. Their IMDb credits numerous, so I knew that they were in good hands. I think there was a couple of the actors I know they rehearsed a couple things in a dressing room, but we actually didn't end up doing that. I was also very fortunate with the schedule over those 4. It was a lot packed in 4 days, and it was pretty intense. But all my stuff was separate. So like my 3 media scenes, which were the audition scenes, were all on separate days, and that phone call scene, which was a solo scene, was the very last day. And shout out again to the director Joe. In my pre-meeting, the day that I arrived, where I wasn't shooting, they flew us up there and check into the hotel, and you get settled and acclimatized. I had a nice hour and a half long meeting, and one of the things he did is he showed me this is the planned schedule for the week. So right away I was able to map out, okay, I had the luxury of focusing on this scene first. Then once that one's wrapped, we can move on to this one and onto this one. And then I had little bits and pieces here and there that weren't really scenes that I auditioned for. But when we got the full script, I had a line here and a line there and some things like that. But no, aside, but what I did do is I rehearsed every day. So I want to shift a little bit from preparation to energy. And they kind of overlap a little bit. One of the biggest challenges of being on set is managing your own energy, meaning your sleep, especially your food, just your own vitality, your rest, your water. And one of the hardest things is overnight shoots throw your body clock way out of whack. If you don't get sleep after those, then you're fucked for the whole week. I've had challenges in the past with food discipline on set. If you've been on set, craft services is a buffet of good and bad food. There's candy, there's cookies, there's coffee, there's every sugar thing that you could possibly have. And I'm a person in the past who's had issues with being able to walk by a bowl of chips and not grabbing a handful of chips, or not grabbing a cookie every time I'm there. And I went into that week being very conscious. Part of this, another person on my team now is Francis Dufour, who's an actor and a fitness and nutrition trainer that I've hired to be my fitness and nutrition trainer. So we had a lot of conversations going in to the shoot on what I need to do, like making sure I'm getting my 7-8 hours sleep, making sure I'm hydrating like crazy, and not overdoing coffee and not overdoing sugar, because I've done this in the past where every time I've walked by a table with a cookie, I've grabbed a cookie, and your blood sugar spikes, and then it crashes, and then it's fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're falling asleep, and you got to do this scene, and you're just, not only the scene, your just energy is going to be shitty dealing with people as well. So so to look at that schedule, I was able to know, okay, were my calls, the nice thing is I never had any early mornings. So I had the luxury of sleeping in because we had a consistent schedule. But I'll tell you my schedule, I would usually, if we wrapped mid-morning, I was able to, and fortunate enough to get 7-8 hours sleep, which means I was normally getting up around some 10, 11, noon, maybe on the latest. But then I would get up, I would immediately go for a long walk. Like was getting my 10,000 steps in every day. On that walk, I was listening to my morning routine stuff, some positive affirmational type podcasts. And I would also be running the lines. So I would be running my lines, saying them out loud, getting them into my body. And then I would come back to the hotel. I would get a little food in me because it's great. You got all the food you want on set, but I got to figure out what I'm doing at the hotel. So the first day that I arrived, I went and got some healthy food. I literally I found this like wholesale grocery store. I bought a 2-kilogram chunk of chicken breast, cooked chicken breast. Like when you go to a deli, they put that giant piece of meat and then they slice pieces off. I literally bought a 2-kilogram thing of chicken breast. And I bought some yogurt, and I bought some like energy bars, healthy type stuff. The hotel had a breakfast, but it was like classic hotel hours where it's like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Like I'm not never going to be awake for that. There was a few nights where I got an omelet at the breakfast at the hotel when I was returning from set before I was going to bed, which was nice.
Nice.
But just being very aware of hydration, sleep, and eating. There was a gym in the hotel, so on the days that I was scheduled to work out, I usually work out like every second day most days. I was able to go get a light workout in at the gym. Nothing crazy because I didn't want to destroy myself or injure myself, or 2 days later not be able to move my biceps because I blasted them so hard. But a light workout, and then I would go back to my hotel room. I would queue up Paul D'Agostino's voice and speech workouts from the Todoroff online archives. I would do a full 45-minute voice and speech workout, like awakening my body. His technique is he's a hybrid of Alexander, which is a lot of the body stuff, and then Linklater, which is releasing and freeing the voice. So I would do a full voice and speech workout. So I was feeling great. My body was activated. I was energized. I was stretched. I was super relaxed, had no tension. My voice was warmed up. I'm sure the hotel maids were like, "What the fuck is happening in there?" As I'm going like,
hotel maids don't ask questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Actually, fun fact. One of my other castmates, Johnny Gauthier, as it happens, when you're on set or when you're on vacation, you get other audition requests. So he had to shoot a self-tape in his hotel room, but it was a really intense scene where he was like, "What the fuck do you want? Give me the fucking money. Give me the fucking money." So they actually got a knock on the door like, "Is everything okay there?" And then had to put a note on the door like, "Actor rehearsing, everything's okay." There wasn't a lot of soundproofing in those hotel rooms. So
he's lucky they didn't call the police.
Right.
Like
right. They gave him it was intense. Like it was like a drug dealer scene or something like that. So give me the fucking money. I'm going to fucking kill you, you motherfucker. But yeah, that's just what I want to say. And the reason I was intentional about the preparation and my routine and energy is because I've been on sets in the past where I didn't do that. I was undisciplined with my eating, with my sleep, guzzling sugar and coffee. And then by the end, but I wanted to be like, if I was to do this every day, I got to do you have to have a routine that's sustainable always, not just, oh, I can go hard and destroy myself for 4 days and then I'm a fucking wreck when I get back. But if all of your dreams came true and you booked a lead role in a movie or in a TV series where for 6 weeks or for 8 months, you're on set 5-6 days a week, if you don't manage your energy and your schedule, you're going to be a wreck. And so I was like, it was a test for me to and I'm not saying I've always been like that, as I've been terrible with eating and energy on set before, but I went into this, I was like, no, I want to up level my professionalism and get to the point where if I was doing this every day for the rest of my life, am I going to get out of shape? Am I going to not sleep? Am I going to become a diabetic? Am I going to like fall asleep on set or stop dropping lines because I'm not sharp energetically? But I was able to maintain that. But it was because I went in with a plan and I had those intentions of get my sleep, get my water, get my morning exercise, get my sunshine, get a light workout in, get a voice and speech workout in. So by the time I showed up on set every day, I was ready to rock. I was loose. I was energized. I was relaxed. I knew my lines. I know what I wanted to say one thing about preparation when I was talking about all the actors, like nobody ever flubbed a line during any of the actual scenes that we were shooting. And I heard I don't know what it was on. It was a podcast or something. I heard someone say, he's like, I know we're in trouble if on set an actor asks for his sides because he needs to look at lines. And that was a good lesson. I've done that before where I had my sides in my back pocket and I'm kind of like looking at them, and that's okay to check something or to see where you're at. Sometimes it's kind of confusing on set, be like, what are we actually shooting right now? Because they move so quickly. And sometimes you might do a master and then in another take, you're not starting at the beginning of the scene, you're starting halfway. So you might want to check sides. But I remember a director saying, he's like, I know we're screwed if if too many actors are asking for the sides, meaning know what you're shooting, know the scene inside and out. So if someone says, oh, we're starting scene 117 from this line, in your head, you're like, okay, I got it. I know exactly where we are. Anything you guys want to say about energy levels, routines, preparation?
Yeah, I think it's really great to have a plan and the intentions like you did. I think it also just speaks to the importance of having healthy, sustainable routines just for your life. You
Right.
know, not. I mean, it's wonderful to kind of amp them up and tweak for the special events
Right.
of being on set or performing, but to have something that sustains you every day, so that when you do have these on set times, you know, it's like a little rise in your normal routine, instead of like, if your routine is way down here because you're not doing anything, your routine is nothing, and then you're having to like climb this mountain while you're under the stressful circumstances of performing. Well, stressful, I put that in quotes. Stressful meaning it's new, it's out of the ordinary of your daily life. It just makes it that much harder to stay true to what you would like to be doing. And I'm a big proponent of voice and speech that should be worked on every day if you're an actor or performer, not just your on-set days. But kudos for you for doing it and being intentional about making that choice to really go all in. Because relaxation and looseness is the thing. If you're not comfortable, then you can't perform at your best. You know, you never see a professional athlete like going in cold on the court or the fields. You want to be loose and warm.
That's what I was thinking. This really goes to show how actors do need to train as athletes, because it can be a marathon sometimes, and you do have to pace yourself and make sure that you're checking in with yourself and making sure that you're doing everything that you can do to make sure you're reaching that body relaxation, and your voice is warmed up and your body is loose, so that you can do everything that you need to do depending on the day.
Yeah, because if I didn't do that, maybe I'm not warmed up and relaxed till halfway through the first scene, but then that's gone. We already shot that. So if I'm tight and tense, or my voice wasn't there, then it's already gone and there's no opportunity. And then when I would see that episode come out, I'd be like, oh shit, we kind of fell flat on that scene because I was still half asleep or hadn't warmed up. Like, and I'm totally guilty of this before joining Tom's studio. Is I used to think I didn't know what I didn't know. That was part of it. But voice and speech work, like, what do you mean? I know how to move my body. I can speak. Like, you you take it all for granted and think it's easier than it is. But if you're an actor out there, and before your auditions, and certainly before your performances, and best case, as Aaron's mentioned, every day, you got to be doing that. Your body is your instrument, and the difference is night and day. Like, how I feel after a voice and speech workout, my relaxation, you got to remove all the tension from your body. We hear the term tension masks emotions. If you're tight and tense, and sometimes you don't even realize that you're tense until you go through a full voice and speech workout, and you're like, oh, I'm like clenching my butt, or my stomach is all tight, or I'm holding tension here, up here in my vocal cords, or in my face, or any of that stuff. Like, it is night and day. So if any part of you listening or watching this is like, I have never done a voice and speech workout before an audition, do it. You'll feel way better. And now when I don't do them, I do feel off. I feel weird. I feel like, I'm not ready for this, versus full relaxation and a free voice and just feeling good. That's a huge up level if you add that into your routine. And check out Todoroff Studio too for that, because that's one of the great things about their acting classes, is every acting class begins with an hour voice and speech workout, because why would you be acting if you're not warmed up and your voice isn't warmed up? So, and that's something I learned in the very first time I ever took a class with Tom, the intensives, when he was doing in-person stuff here in Toronto. It was Deborah Joy, who's a Toronto Canadian based voice and speech teacher. And I looked at the things that we were doing and the people doing them as like, you guys are all fucking crazy. This is ridiculous. Making weird noises and weird shapes and doing all these weird things. And really, it was just because I was ignorant of it all and I was kind of afraid of it. And I was self-conscious of like, oh, I'm making all these weird noises. And that came after I'd already been doing stand-up and sketch comedy and doing all these wild, big, crazy things already. And that I remember that first voice and speech work, I'm looking like, I don't know what the fuck is happening here. This is weird. And now I love them. It's great. So we talked about teamwork. Again, to reiterate, I was so fortunate. I really did feel like acting can be a lone wolf thing. Stand-up can be a lone wolf thing. We're all on our own journeys. But man, does it ever feel better when you know that you're not there alone. So thank you to both of you as my audition coaches, to Tom as my acting coach, to Paul D'Agostino as my voice and speech coach, to Francis Dufour as my fitness and nutrition coach, and then to the entire team, everyone on that set. It was one of the best sets I've ever worked on. Everyone was positive. There was, aside from rain, there was really no drama. Like there was no egos or attitudes or negativity, or at least not that I saw. And that was cast and crew. It was a fucking dream gig. So fun. And maybe the other things we can just also mention is there is a challenge when you rap on set of like coming back to earth and being like, okay, now what? Because I was like, I remember the day like when you rap and it's like you feel fucking amazing. We rapped at 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's not like we're all going to go out and have a rap party at 6. It was like go back to the hotel, get some sleep before your flight later on that afternoon. But I remember even walking into the airport with the other leads that I was in it, and we were just like felt like we just did this incredible thing. You're riding high, just the best feeling in the world. And then there's a danger or a bit of a trap to like coming back to reality. You go from like, oh, I'm a fucking movie star to like, now I'm just a guy at a grocery store and this person doesn't know me at all. So I think that really part of that is leveling out the highs and lows, I think is a good lesson. And like Aaron, you mentioned, making some of your daily routines and habits that you have in all of your life that aren't just habits and routines and disciplines that you do when it's go time, and that levels out that playing field. But I did have that little, like, same as when you're in a theater show or when you're on set, a little bit of that hangover of like, oh, now it's done. It's like you have all the anticipation when you book it and the preparation. When you're there, it's fucking amazing. And when you wrap, it's, oh my God, high five. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, now what? Now it's back to regular life and on to the next thing. So I did have like, I had to check myself a few times on remembering. This is why I wanted to journal on it and why I wanted to have this debrief of the importance of that debrief, whether it's an audition or an on-set experience. Do you journal about it? Do you talk about it, share about it, note the wins, note the struggles? Like we haven't talked yet about, are there things I could have done to improve? But just when I did get back, I kind of had to check myself a couple times, and it was a balance of remembering, okay, yeah, it's great to feel like a movie star, but you are also a human in every situation. So it's like you're the same guy, really. But also remembering those highs, because there was like the high of like, and all the good feelings walking through the airport and feeling, oh, what an incredible experience, was so great. And then a week later, you're not in there. So there can be the tendency to just be like kind of deflated and now what and what next. So it's this weird balance of celebrating the wins, but then moving on to the next thing, because that is done. Like it's nothing's going to happen with that for 6 months or a year. I'll get the echo of that when the thing actually comes out and I get to screen it and watch it and celebrate with cast and crew. But anything you guys want to say on that, like the idea of when you do rap, like coming back to earth and how to move forward from that?
Yeah, I think it highlights really about, well, a couple of things. Like making sure that you're doing in your daily life, doing all you can to have a stable mental and emotional healthy life as
Right.
well. And everything that you can do to maximize that, because the onset experience, you're getting a massive dopamine rush. Like
Oh yeah.
there's you can't change it. It's chemically happening in your body. And so remembering that and understanding that the drop off is also a chemical rebalancing. You're going to move through it and pass through it, and just maintain your steady, healthy mental, emotional uh, self-love and practices for yourself will help that balance happen. There's also a book that I read a number of years ago now, called How to Be a Happy Actor in a Challenging Business by Justina Vale Evans.
Right.
And one of the concepts she talks about, which applies to everyone, not just actors, but the idea of like how to slowly elevate your happiness baseline, so
Right.
that when you do have peaks, you're able to settle back into your baseline in a more
Right.
gentle fashion. And that baseline is ideally rising higher and higher in your
Right.
life.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think also just the importance of daily habits, morning routines, those kind of things. That really wasn't different coming back. The timing of it was different, but I still have my morning routine of listening to positive things, of hydrating, of getting out in the sun, going for a walk, moving. All of that kind of stuff was consistent throughout. What was different was it was later in the day when I was on set, because we were on night shoots. The other thing I didn't mention too is uh, I don't drink very much, but I wasn't drinking at all up there. I occasionally will use other substances that are legal, but I also wasn't doing any of that stuff up there. So I was really focused, and I haven't really been doing any of that since then, either drinking or legal marijuana. But it's just taking care of your body while I was up there. And I know that can be a trap for people too. If you're, I mean, no judgment, but if your daily routine involves alcohol and then you're away for a week where you got to be on set, well, your body's going to react to that, like needing that alcohol potentially, but that can be a disaster if like I can't be rapping in the middle of the morning and then drinking in the middle of the night. Like, so I say that just to be fortunate that I've dealt with most of that stuff, and I don't use any of that too heavily, but I could see how that would be a big trap for some actors, where if they're drinkers especially, and you're on set, well, where does that fit in? How does that fuck things up? Are you drinking before you're on set? Are you drinking after you're rapping? Like that can be a danger. So just the idea of monitoring that with all of your other health habits and figuring out where does that safely and healthfully fit in.
Mhm.
And maybe it doesn't when you're on set. Yeah. Anything else?
All good shouts. There's so much more we could mine,
Yeah.
but thank you. I just want to say thank you for sharing so openly your process from, first audition notice through rap day and beyond. I think it's really insightful and helpful for
Great.
others to just open up this box and share your experience. So it's been really cool to live through the journey with you again.
Yeah, and thank you to both of you. I did feel the whole time that I had you guys in my corner and that I wasn't there alone. So kudos to you guys for all your support, and that's really what the team and the community that we're building here at Actors Audition Club is, to create a scenario where you're not feeling like you're auditioning alone. Instead, you're feeling like, oh, this person cares about my audition as much as I do. They're rooting for me. They're in my corner. They want the best for me. And that is how all of us treat auditions with our clients here. So if you're looking for that type of community, then you can go to laughingvikings.com/AAC. You can enroll as a member for just $1, and that will include your first audition session. So you can essentially take us for a trial test run and get your first self-tape audition session for $1. Again, that's at laughingvikings.com/AAC. And yeah, I wanted to share all this. We always talk about auditions, and that is the focus here at Actors Audition Club and on the podcast Inside the Audition. We are very audition focused, but what happens after the audition? You get on set, and hopefully my thinking with this is to drill in some of the lessons to myself by saying things, then I reiterate them to myself, to you guys, but also to our listeners, so that if you've learned some of these lessons, you don't make those mistakes. So the first time you book a big thing, you don't go up and your energy's all out of whack, or you didn't get sleep, or you didn't prepare, or all those things. So hopefully you don't get fired and you have a positive experience when you're on set, because the idea is we want to do this over and over and over again. And if it's a negative experience or something that physically hurts you, you're not going to be able to sustain that for long term. So we'll do a part 2, hopefully sometime in 2024 when this episode comes out. I would also love to have my castmates from the show and the director, Joe Lynch. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on in the future too. But again, it was a dream experience. It was like, honestly, one of those things that, and I'm fortunate to say that I've had many of these in my career so far, but one of those things where it was like, I'll never forget that experience, and I'll never forget the entire cast and crew, and I'll never be able to forget it because it'll be ingrained in film somewhere, or digitally ingrained on some platform as well. So, and now it's on to the next one. So it's what have you done for me lately, really? So yeah, we got to go out and get the next one. And fun fact, I do have a Zoom audition tomorrow morning that I recently got from my agent, Bella. So it is on to the next one tomorrow morning. So yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners. Make sure to follow, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. And if you enjoyed this, share this out with your actor friends. And of course, anytime if you've ever got questions or comments, or you want us to address certain situations, feel free to ask questions. Hit us up on Instagram at Actors Audition Club, and we will answer your questions and address them in a future episode.
All right. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.